Welcome to the True Man Podcast. This is an invitation to radical reconstruction of a man's masculine heart and soul in a place of safe community where we dare to ask questions deep seated inside a man's soul and explore ways to help you become a better man, a better son, a better dad, and a better spouse. Well, how are you today? How is your heart doing? So I hope you're having an exceptional day. And I want to take the time to express my appreciation to you for taking the time to better your best by listening to the True Man Podcast today. And if you enjoy this programming, this podcast, this show, man, just grab your cell phone right now and forward it on to a friend. Help us to grow. Help us to grow the True Man community. I greatly appreciate you doing that. Now, have you ever heard of the man in the arena quote from President Teddy Roosevelt? I just love the grittiness attached to this quote, and I think it really helps bring to the forefront the importance of getting and being into action, something that I commonly talk about, rather than sitting your ass on the couch and not taking ownership of your own success. Now, let's face it, if you haven't figured this out by now, no one is going to give you anything in life. Of course, you have to go out and earn it. And I think that is what Roosevelt was getting to when he gave this speech. Now, this speech actually comes from the speech at Sorbonne in 1910. But doggone if this quote doesn't still stand the test of time. So let's get to it and then let's talk about it. So here's the quote. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm and great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Wow. Now, this quote embodies everything about what it means to truly live, doesn't it? Yet too many of us stand on the sidelines watching, hesitating, avoiding the risk of failure. We admire the passionate, those who pour their heart and soul into their families, their friendships, their businesses, and life itself, don't we? But when it comes to us stepping into the arena for ourselves, we sometimes hesitate. We sometimes don't want the ball, and we let fear hold us back. And that needs to stop. Why do so many men refuse to step into the arena? I've been that man from time to time. What keeps us from daring greatly? Well, the answer is simple, and you hear me talk about this quite often: fear. And there's a wide range of things that come after fear, mostly excuses. Fear, false evidence appearing real. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of looking foolish, fear of the unknown. We allow these fears to dictate our actions, or worse, our inactions, right? Causes us to pause. Fear is a powerful force that keeps men trapped in mediocrity. It whispers lies, convincing us that we are not enough, that we will fail, and that stepping forward will only lead to embarrassment or loss. Have you ever felt that way? It paralyzes us. It keeps us comfortable but unfulfilled, safe but stagnant. And here's the truth. Fear's a failure. It thrives in inaction, but it loses its grip when we move forward, when we push forward, when we do something outside of our comfort zone. Now, we cannot eliminate fear, but we can overcome it. So, how do we overcome fear and step into the arena? Well, we got to face it head on, man. The best way to overcome fear is to confront it. You have to identify what you're afraid of, and you need to challenge it. Often the worst case scenario isn't as bad as we imagine. Do you ever experience that? Fear grows in the dark, but when we expose it in the light of reason and truth, it begins to lose its power, doesn't it? Two, we need to change our perspective on failure because failure isn't final, it's a lesson. And every great success is built on a foundation of failures. Thomas Edison, there's a great one. When we ask about his failed attempts to create the light bulb, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that it won't work." Now, the key is to learn, adjust, and keep moving forward. You won't always get it right, but if you keep stepping up, keep moving in the right direction, eventually you're going to get right enough at some point to succeed. It may take you 10,000 ways like it did for Thomas Edison, but you got to have that perseverance. So surround yourself with warriors, surround yourself with believers, right? Who you associate with matters. You don't need to be around the takers. You don't need to be around the doubters. Just ask yourself, are you surrounded by men who push you to grow? Are you surrounded by people in general that are pushing you to grow? Or are you surrounded by those who keep you comfortable and complacent? You need to find people who challenge you. You need to be around men who challenge you. You need to be around men who inspire you, who call you to step up and into action. Iron sharpens iron, guys. We need brothers around us who sharpen us, who encourage us, and who hold us accountable. And we need to take action every day. A small step. Right on my computer screen, it says 1% every day, not 100%. I don't need to eat the elephant in one day. I just need to take tangible, manageable steps to move 1% better every day. Greatness does not happen overnight. You don't have to make a giant leap overnight, but you do need to move every day. Do something that pushes you toward your goals. Even a small step forward is better than standing still. Action builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Be the snowball on top of that hill that's just rolling down, powerhousing to the finish. And you need to anchor yourself with a bigger purpose. You were not created to merely exist. You weren't built for that. God has placed greatness inside of you. He's given you talent, skills, and calling. And when you step into the arena, it's not about you. It's about fulfilling that calling, about living or something bigger than yourself. When you're focused on a higher purpose, fear begins to shrink in comparison. And you may be going right now, I don't know what my purpose is. We'll talk about how you can contact me on the end. We all have purpose in our lives. Is it something for your wife, your kids? Is it something bigger for your job? Is it something that you've not yet achieved in life that you want to? Purpose will help you to shrink that fear. Now, there's a danger here that many of us have fallen victim to, and that's self-sabotaging ourselves in order to even start, even to begin in the direction that we want to go. It's one of the greatest obstacles to stepping into the arena. It's not external, it's internal. It's that we sabotage ourselves. We do this too often. And we convince ourselves we're not ready, not qualified, or not worthy, don't we? We procrastinate, make excuses, and set unrealistic expectations that give us an out, right? When things go hard. You ever been that guy? I have. Self sabotage often comes from a fear, believe it or not, of success as much as it is fear of failure. I have definitely experienced that. What if we succeed? What if people expect more of us? What if we can't sustain it? These thoughts can keep us stuck, convincing us it's better to stay where we are than risk moving forward. Now, what's the antidote to self sabotage? Well, it's self awareness and intentional action. Recognizing the patterns of behavior that are holding you back. Are you procrastinating? Are you overthinking? Are you talking yourself out of opportunities? Are you? Once you identify these patterns, take deliberate steps to counter them. And I mentioned this earlier, just start small. Start small, but start now. One of the most practical ways to combat fear and self-sabotage is to start small. Take one step at a time, make one decision, have one conversation. Every small victory builds your confidence and chips away at the power of fear and the power that fear has over you and the power that you allow fear to have over you. Over time, those small steps will add up to big changes. Now let's talk about Jesus, shall we? He's really the ultimate example of stepping into the arena. I guess that's putting it lightly. Now, if there's one man who exemplifies this, as I mentioned, it's Jesus. Man, the guy stepped right in the middle of the arena. He didn't stay on the sidelines. He didn't avoid the fight. He stepped into the mess of humanity. He faced suffering head on and triumphed over sin and death on the cross. Here's the good news. He did it for us. He did it knowing how it was all going to end. Jesus did not accept defeat. He endured pain. He endured rejection and the ultimate sacrifice so that we could live in victory. Are you leaning into him with all of this? Because he really calls us to do the same, not to live in fear, but in faith, not to play it safe, but to step forward boldly, trusting that he will provide the strength we need. Now, when you lean into Christ, you don't have to rely solely on your own strength. You don't have to carry the burden alone. You can step into the arena knowing that the victory is already secured in him. And what are the rewards of stepping into the arena? Maybe getting your face bloodied a little bit, right? Because we know that stepping into the arena is not easy, but it is worth it. The arena is where growth happens. It's where you get stretched. It's where you discover who you are and what you're capable of. It's where you build resilience, strength, and character. It's in the arena that you face the challenges in your life, the setbacks, and the failures, because you're meeting them head on. But you will also experience triumphs, breakthroughs, and moments of pure exhilaration. You will know the satisfaction of giving your all, of daring greatly, and living fully. And even if you fail, you will fail with honor. You will fail knowing you had the courage to try, the strength to fight, and the resolve to keep going. And that's more than can be said for those who never leave the sidelines, isn't it? So as I begin to wrap up today, what is the call to action? Man, it's time. No more sitting on the sidelines. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more excuses. The world needs men who are willing to step up. Your family needs you to lead. Your community needs your courage. Your faith needs your commitment. And you need to prove to yourself that you are more than your fears, more than your doubts, and more and your failures. Men, step into the arena. Get your hands dirty, sweat, struggle, fight. Because in the end, whether you succeed or fail, you will have lived. You will have dared greatly. And that is what makes all the difference. Now, will you be the man who sits and watches? Or will you be the man in the arena? Well, the choice is yours, isn't it? How about that? Did you enjoy this podcast today? Are you the type of man who's sitting here right now going, man, I'm fired up, but I'm not sure what my purpose is? I want to understand that. I want to understand what it's like to hop into the arena and be a warrior, but I need some help. Hey, man, if you'd like to talk about it, I'd love to hear from you. Simply reach out to me at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. Let's have a chat. What do you have to lose? If you're sitting on the sidelines of life right now, what do you have to lose? Well, I hope you learned a little something today, and I hope you enjoyed. I've always loved, and I carry it around with me actually, this man in the arena quote. I find it just incredibly inspiring, and I think that it's complete symbolism to life. And I hope that you gain some inspiration from it today. And if you did, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and you enjoyed this podcast, please send it on down the road. Send it on down the road. Become the man you were meant to be. So I appreciate you listening today. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave me a great review on your favorite podcast platform. And head on out. We're going to be upgrading the website here, the new website, truemanlifecoaching.com. It's the same URL, but we're getting ready to kick this thing off. We're getting ready for the book, True Man, True Ways, A Roadmap of Discovery to the Masculine Heart. We're going to be rolling that out on March 19th. So look for that. Until next week, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you. You are a worthy man, and you can be the man that steps into the arena and takes action. Now go out and make this your best day ever. God bless. Thanks for listening.